Podcasting since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
Materialists and the way they tackle those matchmaking myths.
We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Thanks for joining me here on the program. King of Podcasts here with you. Fresh off of getting a colonoscopy. Yeah, I don't recommend enjoying the lead up to the colonoscopy. Well, at least it was very quick and painless, just to say it like that. I mean it. That's what I actually did. So that's what held me back a day from doing this program. But here I am, ready to do it. I still got to do the wrestling podcast tonight. We're going to knock out both of them tonight. So if you're listening in, you know what's going on. You're in the know. Thanks for listening to the program. You find the show, of course, at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and all other major podcast platforms, of course, all originating from kingofpodcasts.com. So I saw the movie Materialists over the weekend, starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. Pretty big cast in there. An A24 movie, which didn't put a whole lot into the budget, obviously for the money for the stars they got in it. Dakota Johnson playing an elite matchmaker. And really, the movie does a good job of kind of portraying the kind of dates and dating scenarios in New York City, by the way, because matchmaking of this kind doesn't happen much in many other markets. But for what they did of it, the portrayal of the actual men and women that were being paired for dating, the delusions that they all had together collectively in the movie, that was really well done. I give them a lot of credit, and I thought Dakota Johnson did a really good job in this movie. This a lot better than what she did with Madam Web, but of course she said there was a lot of things that the creative process cannot be done by committee, which obviously was that. Now in this movie, she also has to go and deal with her own love tryst, where she meets with a brother of one of the people that she matched at a wedding, well off, and quite a guy, quite a catch. Everything she would want in terms of being satisfied and supported by someone who was rich, because she made it a point that was what she really wanted. But at the same time, she still had feelings for Chris Evans, who's Captain America in most cases we all know as, but in this movie, he was a loser guy and was somebody that she was with before. And the whole deal of what she decides to go and do with both of them and how she is torn between both. So that happens there, and that's an interesting story in itself, much different than it was with It Ends With Us, which is still going on in court, even after the movie did very well in the box office. But I saw this movie, and I thought about the matchmaking aspect and how they portrayed it. And I want to go back to an interview that I did last year. You might remember I actually talked to a professional matchmaker in Texas who does this for a living. I had a chance to go and speak with her. Had a long interview with her. That was back in January of 2024. And I want to go ahead and play back some of that interview real quick, just to take some of the comments of what's being made, because some other matchmakers made their comments known because of this movie and what else people thought about it. So I want to go ahead and take what was said from here and bring it to the forefront. So first of all, let me go ahead and give you a clip back from that episode in January of 2024, where I talk about dating smarter, not harder in the digital age with professional matchmaker Julia McCurley. And here is what we talked about. The women's liberation movement, 60 years ago. I mean, we can talk about the fact that was something that was a cultural change in a lot of different ways. I mean, listen, you can talk about birth control, you can talk about women's liberation, we can talk about the rise of feminism and the modern feminism we have today. But there's also there's changes in terms of what a feminist is representing, previously to what a feminist represents now. And politics, like you said, is what's causing all this, all of it. And that's the part that's making it harder, but what are you going to do about that? And I feel like it's in the last 10 years, maybe the last 15 years, politics now has to be a part of all of our lives. And I'm like, we don't need, do you want to have that in your home privately all the time? I mean, that's the part of do you feel like is that where we are now? Do you feel like that, that traditional housewife, the June Cleavers of the world, is that something, is that something now that it's that's passe and it's very politically incorrect now?
No, there's a few women that are okay with that, but I guess, again, the men aren't necessarily wanting that. I mean, they want kind of an equal. I mean, you and I talked about this the other day. A lot of women are delaying getting married. So then we run into, okay, now you're 40, you may need some help getting married, being able to have children. That is something that men are wary of. We hear about all these Hollywood celebrities having babies at 50, but who knows what they did to do that. So there's a lot of moving parts to dating these days, and feminism definitely is part of that. Yes, men are very shallow. I blame that on dating apps. There's an unrealistic view of how women should look now with all these filtered photos. It's conditioned us. The women need those full lips and big breasts and tiny nose and just, the Kardashian look. And that's not normal either. No. So, and, the women are that way too. They want these GQ guys. And what they don't realize is you really need to get to know the person. You can't just judge them on a photo. There's the throwaway culture of, there's somebody next out there that I blame dating apps on. So the Amazon Prime, we want instant chemistry. There's a lot of factors. And so at least with matchmaking, I'm vetting the person. I call it reverse engineering. I'm taking them apart. Like, who are they really? What are their values? What are their lifestyles? Little things, morning and night people, messy or neat. Do they need to watch TV to go to sleep? Their diet. I mean, it's crazy. There's pet peeves and there's deal breakers, which I also work with people on. So there definitely is coaching and trying to get people to be more realistic. And at the end of the day, it's all about who's got your back, who's your best friend. We can all lose our money. We can all lose our looks. And then what? This is the person you're quote unquote stuck with.
So everything she encompasses there makes the point about what this movie Materialists actually talks about, because really everybody that's being looked at for matchmaking in this particular case, you have to consider it's last resort for some people, because when they're going through dating right now, the apps are not doing it. Just meeting up in person, because we're already past that initial stage of saying in your teens and 20s where dating is very rampant, and you go through the stages of getting to know somebody, whoever that might be, and you go through different relationships and until you get yourself familiar with the ideal person you want in your life. And sometimes it's not going to be the first partner that you're with. And that's the biggest problem we have right now. When I look at the current day, and I mentioned feminism in this whole part, the one thing is, with women being left to their own device on trying to go ahead and seek out, and there's so many women I hear on TikTok on a regular basis that say that they can't find themselves with anyone because they're not getting approached. They're not able to find anyone that they like because of various things that they might find as an ick, or any specific situations, scenarios, whatever it might be. There's just so many little things that can be found as a reason just to not go ahead and move further with somebody. And I know that for myself at an older age, where we're learning the fact that we just don't allow ourselves room for someone to be a little bit different than us. We just don't accept it. And that's the biggest problem I think we have right now today. So overall, that's one of the things that I thought in matchmaking, when you're at this point, and that's the part that was being portrayed in this particular movie, is that. So into the movie itself, there are several matchmakers that actually talked about their take on Materialists. So I wanted to go ahead and give just a commentary on what I had from Julia McCurley. Please go and listen to that interview if you didn't get a chance to go and listen to it. But, I'll go ahead and post it in here so you can go ahead and find it again. And you'll find it, especially if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and look. I'll have it as one of the featured episodes you can take a look back and listen to and catch it for yourself. It's an over hour-long conversation. It was really great. So People Magazine talked to Maria Avahites, a professional matchmaker, dating coach in New York City, about her take on Materialists. And in the movie, Dakota Johnson plays Lucy, a successful Manhattan matchmaker to the wealthy, who's become cynical about true love and marriage in her own life. So move along here. Maria is a fourth-generation professional matchmaker in New York, and she said that she couldn't see herself in this. Quote, I was trying to warn some matchmakers, I know you're about to throw a whole movie screening for this. Tread carefully. I don't know what else to tell you. Now, writer-director Celine Song, who won an Oscar nomination for movie Past Lives in 2023, got inspired for Materialists from the 6 months she spent 10 years ago working at Talkify, a large-scale matchmaking service. And she said, quote, "I feel like I learned more in those 6 months about the people than I learned from any other period of my life." Now, Avahites runs a boutique matchmaking company called Agape, taking on about 15 clients at any given time, estimates to have secured thousands of marriages over the course of her career. And she wrote a book, Ask a Matchmaker, Matchmaker Maria's Non-Nonsense Guide to Finding Love. And when she talks about the fact that Dakota Johnson's character Lucy makes $80,000 a year as a matchmaker, Maria says that's accurate. About handing out business cards to strangers, she says that might have happened before 2008, but there's a stigma with matchmakers that only desperate people will use them, and that's not true. I've always taken the inbound marketing approach. Even before social media, I was out in bars. I would use the Foursquare app. I would call myself Matchmaker Maria, so people knew there's a matchmaker in the room. Let me go talk to her. But that chasing someone on the street, that's not something I ever done. I do know certain matchmakers that do it, and they do it on LinkedIn. And then the setup of the office, they said, well, that's movie world. My office was the Empire State Building on the 59th floor for years. We left it during a pandemic. But most clients right now meet via Zoom. And to have public conversations at a public cafe, something I wouldn't do in 2025 now. Asked about if she ever got invited to clients' weddings. And she says that, no, I'm so far away with that first date until when they finally get married. Some of them even forget how they met. I've been invited to weddings, maybe attended to, but I'm not saving anyone's day. I'm not in the wedding party. I acknowledge I'm extremely far away from the day they go down the aisle. I'm not even part of the conversation. And then about the fact about clients becoming friends, because it was by 6 degrees of separation that Lucy's character meets Pedro Pascal's character, and they hook up. When she was trying to go ahead and set him up for dating as a matchmaker, when he was actually instead interested in her. And Maria says, it's always professional. I have to respect my own boundaries. I have other people that need me in my personal time. Despite being a professional in the personal space, I've set up, I think now, 7,000 first dates. I am stressed out most nights between 7 and 9 p.m. because I think about, oh my God, my client's on a date right now. But that's it. Overall, she says the movie was about half accurate, that people still have extreme dating fatigue, and they're just like, look, I've waited this long, just find me the person. So they'll come with these lists. But then there's the other clients. 80% of my clients are business New Yorkers who don't have time to participate in modern dating on apps. So clients might work at Goldman or BlackRock, or might be entrepreneurs or business owners, and they're doing just stuff, and they're not online, and they're just the kind of people that would hire us, just like they would hire a personal trainer and a personal chef. They're also going to hire a matchmaker to help them with this. Now, I never talked about myself, but I did do one of these type of matchmaking things. It was what took over Great Expectations, which that used to be a thing they used to get panned on Mad TV on a regular basis. You might remember if you're old enough. Well, I did go to one of those, and roughly they did want you to spend roughly about $3,000 to $4,000 a month to put yourself in the matchmaking of the men and women that they found. So for me, looking at the women that they had, I noticed that this particular matchmaker had a lot of people that had just come into the country. They're mid-30s, 40s, 50s. You could tell there's a bit of a gap in what they had available. But they had people that were available as partners. But it felt like a bit of a more of a mail order bride kind of feel to it. But it was like very vetted type of individuals, not on your own. And that was just something that was kind of weird to me when I looked at that. Now, in the film, one of Lucy's clients are sexually assaulted on an arranged first date. And when Maria was asked about this, she says that I've had to fire clients for being bad on dates 2 times in my 17-year career. But they were able to admit, you know what, Maria, that was really inappropriate behavior, but it was not sexual assault. I did ask 3 colleagues, have you ever heard this happening to any other person? They're like, no, I'm sure it happens, and dating it happens. I want to believe that there's no assault or abuse in this, but people that are in their own people. I understand what the employer is trying to say, but at the same time, it was just kind of presented as a normal thing, and that if it actually happened, it would be. So the matchmaking part in the movie Materialists, so the one character that does get sexually assaulted, S.A.'d, one of the things was that they met somewhere public, and she did offer to go ahead and let the guy follow her home. Not the idea to go with right off the bat. In New York City, I would imagine you want to meet somewhere public and then you go your separate ways. Like you're not coming together, you're not leaving together unless things just absolutely click. And especially in the matchmaking scenario, I don't think you would go ahead and jump right into something immediately anyway. And if you did, I would probably call it a red flag, to be honest with you. But I don't know where we are at this point. Like, I think there was just something here that it didn't feel like it was the right situation. But nevertheless, that's one matchmaker's thought. So there was a lot of stories that came out and picked up on that People magazine story with that matchmaker. And in the area of matchmaking, it still is a thing. Cosmopolitan in Australia actually talked about this. If you do a Google search now of matchmaker services, it still has a lot of executive dating agencies and organizations promising exclusive introductions and elite matchmaking. Now, apps are trying to do the same thing as well. Keep that in mind, too, that we have talked about this, that dating apps right now are trying to act like matchmakers in the same way, for whatever reason. First of all, everybody is feeling a need to get into the matchmaking thing because they see what they see on TV. There's the movie Married at First Sight, Millionaire Matchmakers out there as a show, Jewish matchmaking. HBO's The White Lotus giving a nod to matchmaking when two of the show's characters admitted they met through a matchmaking service. So as I mentioned, the mainstream apps are trying to go into the same thing right now. Bumble working on concierge dating services, and there are others exploring premium tiers offering curated introductions. We know that Tinder's trying to do the same thing here with their select, the $300 or $500 a month service, among others. But there are a lot of places that are trying to say that they're matchmaking when they're not. They talked to matchmaking advocate Arlene Washburn in datingnews.com. She was asked about this and says that unless there's real deep vetting, real accountability, and someone taking responsibility for outcomes, there's not matchmaking, there's marketing. But if dating sites and apps are trying to find the right balance between automation and human insight, they might have a leg up in the next phase of the dating game. And Washburn says, well, we're entering a trust revolution. People are tired of feeling like commodities. And in 5 years, I believe matchmaking will be the gold standard for serious daters. That's something that's being importantly said, commodities. Because guys feel like they are being treated like commodities because of how we're being treated if we're going out on a date. Because how many women do we have out there that are looking at the value? Even when Lucy's character in Materialists says that, she talks about that these girls want to be noticed, they want to be looked at, they want to be valued. But value comes with a price tag. And where they might go to meet up, I can tell you that off the bat, this matchmaking service they had in this movie was all executive matchmaking. So women will get the idea that they're going to try to go ahead and get into one of these things, not knowing what the cost is going to be for this. And second, that the guy that might pay into the matchmaking service as well, of course, the woman's not going to go ahead and pay more into it, not going to invest more, but it's an investment. And nevertheless, even with Pedro Pascal's character, he talks about dating her, Lucy's character, Dakota Johnson, as an investment. And that's acceptable. And that is a normal way of life now. It's a new normal. So people are starting to feel like that there's something new here, and that's how it's going to be. So the matchmaking thing is going to come back once again. So the question is going to be, if dating apps start offering matchmaking services, if all of them start going, because we already know they're losing customers. We already know that putting a certain price down on services is not getting enough. So they're going to charge more and try to offer matchmaking services. So it could change industry standards if the apps commit to real vetting, ethical practices, and outcome-focused services. But if not, they'll dilute what true matchmaking really is. Now, Washburn also said that most dating apps she thinks are designed to keep people single. Matchmakers are the opposite. They want you off the market for good. And that unless dating apps fundamentally shift their business models, matchmaking offerings may remain more lip service than true service. But people are now tired of going through swiping and matching, especially guys, and being ghosted by their matches. Dating app users are craving something more intentional, personal, human. And in this article, they talk about that the dating industry needs to evolve, investing in hybrid models, championing ethical matchmaking, and real human connection to really make waves. Now, back into the story from Cosmopolitan. There's a lot of this going on worldwide as a normal thing of life. But here in America, that's the part where, if you think that you really need to go this route and go into matchmaking to find someone special, I don't know if I would want to go ahead and depend on some professional matchmaker out there. Because they're only going to be left with the crop of clients that they have, which is another thing that's got to be said. Okay, you're going to get bona fide singles, no doubt about it. You cut through the red tape of trying to go ahead and approach and go on dates that might not go anywhere. That who you're going to meet on the matchmakers guidance is going to be somebody that you feel like this matchmaker will have done the best job of trying to go ahead and position someone that hopefully is not someone they just decide to go and throw at you because they think they might fit a role and they want to get that person off the client list. But at the same time, they're hoping that it'll be somebody that might be an actual fit for you. But I do feel like it's that part. With matchmaking, there's the idea where we want all the choices, especially when you've been emotionally damaged. Okay? That's why it's most important. If you're able to go ahead and overcome what you've gone through, that has caused the dating lapse that you have. That's caused the dating lull that you have. That's caused the disastrous dating that you've gone through, where you have not gotten to the point of finding someone to be in a relationship with, let alone get married with, let alone have kids with. If you haven't gotten that far yet, then something's got to be said about what do you got to do to get to that point? That maybe matchmaking is not supposed to be the route of this route, but we don't know. I mean, look, you just got to work on it yourself. There can be more to this. And for this episode, I want to go ahead and close things out real quick with more of my interview with Julia McCurley, just to take some final tips away here that I thought she made poignant on the program. So if you don't hear me say it beforehand, I hope you'll come back next week for another episode. And remember, it's okay. All right. We can all be a little depraved and debaucherous. How many articles on dating you can find on a regular basis? And you'll see women, I became pregnant and became a mother at 40. I had a guest for another program for a podcast that she has a podcast of her own. And she was 41 when she first started having children. And she has 3 now. And they all came out well. She was in great shape. And yes, possible, but that's not the norm. Right.
It isn't the norm. And so you could say, feminism or whatever. Or it's kind of like it's easy to get caught up in your job as well. And time goes on. A lot of us say, well, I'm fine alone. I've got my girlfriends. I've got my vacations. I really don't, quote unquote, need a man. But as you get older, loneliness will kick in eventually. All your friends got their families, their kids. They're not calling you, asking you to go do stuff. And so there becomes a smaller and smaller pool of people, even in your social life. So, maybe there's a reason why generations before us all got married younger and just realized there is nobody perfect.